It's no secret that TKO ruined WWE, so let's look at 10 ways how they ruined the company, starting with possibly the worst, which are ticket prices. When TKO bought WWE, their main goal was clear: make as much money as possible, and sure, that does make sense. You don't spend billions of dollars without expecting a huge return. But one of the first areas they targeted were ticket prices. Even the TKO president openly admitted that Vince McMahon was charging what he called fair prices for the average family. Then in the very next breath, he said they plan to keep raising the ticket prices because they want to grow the business. He basically said, let's squeeze every dollar that we can. It's honestly really sad to see TKO is quietly pushing out the hardcore fans and the families who would have been generational WWE viewers, all for a short-term cash grab. And what makes it worse is that it's working for now. People are still buying tickets, and WWE keeps bragging about record-breaking box office gates at every show. The crowd actually cheers, the executives celebrate, and everyone pretends that it's a good thing, but I don't think this is sustainable at all. Eventually, people are going to get tired of paying outrageous prices to sit in the upper deck. The hype will fade and those record-breaking numbers will start to drop. It's only a matter of time before fans say enough is enough. The next thing TKO ruined is something that used to be sacred, and that is the WWE ring itself. When Vince McMahon was still in charge, one of the most respected parts of his product was that the squared circle was clean. There were no ads, no logos, and no brands. It was just the ring with pure focus on the wrestling. Vince was very old school about it. He believed the ring should represent the art and legacy of the business. Brands wanted their logos on the mat for years, but he always said no. Then TKO came in and suddenly every inch of the ring was for sale. Now we've got sponsorships on the mat, the turnbuckles, the barricade, and even the Prime Hydration Station. You can't even enjoy a classic table bump anymore without being reminded to buy some beef sticks. It's gotten ridiculous. The ring used to feel like a special ground for wrestling history, and now it just feels like another billboard. The focus used to be on the story being told inside the ropes, but under TKO, it feels like the match is just another sponsorship. Let's talk about celebrities, because TKO has completely changed the way WWE uses them. Now, to be fair, celebrities in wrestling are new. We've seen plenty of stars step inside a WWE ring long before TKO ever took over, but there's a huge difference in how it's being done now. In the past, WWE would only feature celebrities in segments that really don't impact the story, or people would get matches, but they deserve to be in those matches. The ones who fought, respected the business, and actually put in all the work, time, and effort in order to perform. Under TKO, though, it feels like none of that matters. Take Jelly Roll, for example. He had absolutely no business being in a match, and it showed. I'll be brutally honest, he did not look good. And it's not fair to the guys who did the heavy lifting. Randy Orton, Logan Paul, and Drew McIntyre all deserved a better match than that. Then we've got Travis Scott at WrestleMania, and that one hurt even more. His involvement ruined John Cena's 17th world title win. It turned what should have been a legendary main event into a joke. He even left right after because he realized he wasn't built for the WWE, and reports even came out saying that TKO's owner owed somebody else a favor, which is why he was introduced in the first place. Imagine that, John Cena's last WrestleMania moment being sold out for a favor. Vince McMahon would never have done that at WWE, and it just shows where their priorities are. TKO is obsessed with celebrities. They want mainstream clout more than wrestling credibility, and instead of using them to enhance the product, they've pushed them front and center where they frankly don't belong. Another way TKO ruined WWE is through the ESPN deal. Do you remember the WWE Network days? It was $10 a month and you got everything. Every pay-per-view, every special, every archive show, all in one place. Even when they moved it to Peacock, it was basically the same deal. It was still affordable, simple, and convenient. But TKO could not unless you're paying $30 per show. 30, and for what? Half the time Triple H only books 5 matches, so you're basically paying $6 per match. It honestly feels like we're getting scammed. Honestly, I don't think we realized how good we had it with the WWE Network and even Peacock. Back then, it felt like wrestling was being made for the fans, and now it feels like every decision is made for the shareholders. TKO, like I said, it will do anything to squeeze out more money, even if that means pricing out loyal fans who stuck around for decades, and this ESPN deal is just another example of that greed. One of the biggest things I'll never forgive TKO for is how they completely botched John Cena's farewell tour. It had all the potential in the world. It should have been the perfect story for one of the greatest to ever do it. But somehow, TKO managed to fumble every major moment. It started with the failed heel turn, which could have easily been one of the boldest moves in WWE history, but instead they let The Rock hijack that story, even though there were no serious long-term plans for him. After that, they threw Travis Scott into the mix just to return a favor for someone, which ended up ruining John Cena's main event at WrestleMania. And if that wasn't enough, they completely retconned his heel turn. They then had him job out to Brock Lesnar for some cheap ESPN buzz, only to forget about it happening because there was a lot of negative feedback. It's one of the most poorly managed retirement tours WWE's ever produced. They've tarnished what should have been a beautiful send-off for a legend. John Cena gave everything to this company for the last 20 years, and instead of giving him the respect that he deserved, TKO treated his farewell tour like another marketing campaign. This is what happens when a company that does not understand wrestling tries to control it. They've ruined the final chapter of one of the greatest of all time, and that is something that fans won't ever forget about. I mentioned The Rock earlier, and it's important to talk about him because TKO ruined WWE by giving The Rock way too much power. Making him a board member might have sounded great on paper. After all, he's one of the biggest stars in wrestling history, but in reality, it caused nothing but chaos behind the scenes. Now, don't get me wrong, his WrestleMania 40 run as the final boss was absolutely legendary. He delivered one of the most entertaining performances of his career, but the problem isn't when he shows up, it's everything that happens when he doesn't. The Rock has been stringing WWE along like a toxic ex. One minute he's back and passionate about wrestling again, the next he's gone to Hollywood as soon as another movie deal hits. I think it's obvious that there were concrete plans for him to feud with Cody Rhodes and then Roman Reigns, and all of that got scrapped the moment that his movie schedule filled up. Then when he finally did come back, he wanted to run a soul storyline for Cody Rhodes when Cody wasn't even interested in doing that. And of course, somewhere along the line, he managed to derail John Cena's heel turn too. It's like every time The Rock returns, WWE's entire creative direction gets flipped upside down. The truth is that TKO should have said no. They should have set boundaries, because when one guy, even a legend like The Rock, can come in and change everything at will, it hurts the entire product. Instead of elevating WWE, his constant back and forth creative meddling has done more harm than good. We gotta talk about TKO's bizarre business decisions because some of them have been flat out disrespectful. Let's start with R-Truth. The fans loved him, the locker room loved him, and he's one of the most entertaining and well-respected veterans on the roster. Yet somehow TKO wasn't even interested in re-signing him. That right there shows how little they value loyalty or veteran leadership. To them, it's all about cutting costs, even if it means losing one of the most beloved figures in WWE history. They only brought him back because of the reaction from us fans. And then there's the Andrade situation, which probably is even worse. The WWE supposedly released him and gave him a 1-year no-compete clause. On top of that, they're reportedly not even paying him during that time. How does that even make sense? You can't tell a guy he can't work for a year and also say, oh, by the way, we're not gonna pay you either. To make things even sketchier, it seems like TKO is obsessed with trying to hurt AEW instead of focusing on their own product. They literally scheduled WrestlePalooza as a supercard event on the same day as the AEW pay-per-view, clearly just to take the attention away. I don't get it. Why not let AEW do their thing? Having another major wrestling promotion is good for the industry. It gives other wrestlers a ton more opportunities. It gives fans more variety, and it keeps everyone sharp on their feet competing. TKO's obsession with winning every dollar is making the business worse, not just for WWE fans, but for everyone all around the industry. Before TKO started tightening their grip on WWE, Triple H had almost full creative control between 2022 and 2024, and I can confidently say that that era was absolutely incredible. The product was red hot, the shows felt exciting again, and the fans were rewarded for paying attention. Storylines actually mattered. For example, Cody Rhodes losing at WrestleMania 39 only to come back stronger a year later and finally defeating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 was long-term storytelling at its finest. It was satisfying, emotional, and it made the payoff feel huge. That's what Triple H brought to the table. But ever since TKO's influence grew, it felt like that magic has disappeared. The focus is not on stories anymore, it's on moments. The WWE isn't building arcs that keep fans invested for months at a time. They're just chasing quick viral pops for the pay-per-views that don't mean much a week later. We've seen it play out time and time again. John Cena's heel turn happened with no real direction. Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble just for the shock value was a bad call. Travis Scott randomly showing up at WrestleMania was an awful decision, and Brock Lesnar squashing John Cena out of nowhere was completely pointless. All of these moments were driven by short-term headlines and media buzz. As I said, under Triple H's creative control, WWE felt like a show written for wrestling fans, but now with TKO's influence, it feels like the product is built for investors, and that is why the storytelling that once made WWE great is slowly dying. The obsession with chasing moments has led directly to the next problem, and that's the overall quality of WWE's product, which has taken a nosedive. When storytelling stops being the main focus, everything else starts to crumble, the matches lose meaning, the characters feel inconsistent, and quite frankly, the fans just stop caring. That's exactly what's happening right now. Let's take The Vision for example. That's a faction that existed purely because they wanted a shocking WrestleMania moment between Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. There was no long-term plan, and the fans lost interest almost immediately. It's been one of the weakest storylines in years. And don't even get me started with SmackDown. That show is barely holding itself together. The pacing is off, the stories are not entertaining, and it feels like nobody in creative really knows where things are headed. To make things worse, there are even reports saying that WWE is exploring AI-generated storylines, and I wish I was kidding. That is where we are now. Instead of creative writers crafting stories that connect with the fans, we might soon have algorithms deciding who feuds with who. The WWE is so cooked right now. At the end of the day, there's one word that perfectly describes how TKO ruined WWE, and that word is greed. Everything we've talked about comes down to that. The rise in ticket prices, the constant sponsorships shoved in our faces during every match, the random celebrity appearances that derail storylines, and the overpriced ESPN deal, all of that was caused by greed. Even John Cena's retirement tour, something that should have been a celebration of one of the greatest ever do it, was tainted by greed. It seems like TKO does not care about the fans, they don't care about the wrestlers or the legacy of WWE. They care about one thing, and that's squeezing every last dollar out of a brand that used to be built on passion and creativity. It is honestly so sad to see. Greed might make them rich in the short term, but it's destroying the soul of WWE in the long run. Anyways, that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more. And here are some other videos I think you might enjoy.